All right, so it is my first day back after a 2-week active rest. So first half of that week was a deload, and then second half was just completely off the gym. Just stayed home, did work, hung out, ate good food. So I'm back now. What I've chosen to do before moving into a mass gaining phase is a mini cut. Not something I generally recommend, but just due to like my eating habits and behavior post-show, where my psychology was at, I chose to kind of just lay off of the diet, not loosely eating, but just simply psychologically I wanted a break so I could focus on work and things like that. So obviously there's a trade-off associated with that, probably put on a little more body fat than I would have liked to, but it's totally okay. I can get most of that off in the one mini cut. So I'll do a mini cut, and then depending on what I do after that, or what I choose to do after that, where I'm at mentally, physically, I may go into a mass gaining phase from there. So pretty much MEV training currently. It's just going to be lower volumes, lower training volumes, and trying to maintain the tissue as I go into an aggressive deficit for a period of weeks. One thing that I want whoever's watching to take away from this is that watch my eccentrics, watch the amount of control I always have over the weight. I'm never dropping it too quickly, especially for the level of strength that I have. Once you're really strong, especially, and if you're in a deficit like I am currently, pausing your lifts, controlling your eccentrics, always a good idea. It's going to be very minimal in the amount of load that you use, the effect on the amount of load you use, and it's going to produce more stimulus if you have more control over the weight to some degree. And it's going to reduce your injury risk by a ton. So I really suggest that you always control your eccentrics. Fast concentrics is good, but controlling your eccentrics, controlling the amortization phase, which is the phase or transition between the concentric and eccentric, never abruptly shifting. That's where a lot of injuries occur. So if you can do that, train with full range of motion, your risk of injury will be really small. Okay, so here I'm doing dips. I'm doing them primarily for my chest. I'm leaning forward a little bit, kind of treating it almost like a press. That just helps me feel it more in my chest when I do this specifically. If I were to do it in triceps to keep my torso more upright. Elbows tucked a little bit more. Luckily with this setup here, I can actually change the width, so I have them a little bit wider out. Basically how I'm selecting exercises for this mini cut, I'm going with variations that I know I'm not going to use in my mass gaining phase, and a little bit more higher RSM movements. What that means is movements that are not, we're not considering the fatigue level from them. They're more stimulative, but they may have more fatigue as well. This allows me to keep my volumes a little bit lower, and then when I switch to the variations that have higher SFRs, I won't be as, the movements won't be as stale because I'll be going to new movements. That'll also allow me to drop my volumes lower because the stimulus will be novel. You'll notice I'm going pretty deep on these. I'm basically going as slow as I can, or at least controlling the eccentric, and going down to a position where it doesn't cause pain. There's actually a level of depth that I do hit where I get a little bit of a pulling and a recurring injury. So when we're talking full range of motion, you want to determine your range of motion based on your mobility, and particularly if you have injuries, you can look at variations that don't hurt that injury, or you can stop the range of motion short before you get to the injured area. That is really important, especially when you're handling heavy loads. All right, I'm doing Smith machine skull crushers here. Notice they're kind of like in between a skull crusher and a JM press. I'd like to also point out my elbows. They are tucked as far in as I can. This is to eliminate the need or the use of heavier loads than are necessary while simultaneously adding more stimulus to the triceps. The sport, if you want to call it that, of bodybuilding is not a lift as heavy as possible competition, even in a progressive overload context. You technically want a movement to be inefficient at generating force, and you want to try your best to put the maximum amount of stimulus on the muscle. And this is also in the case of reducing fatigue. In this case, we're reducing fatigue by not having to use as much external load, by tucking the elbows more, and then we also feel our triceps more as a result. A lot of people will say that they can't tuck their triceps like that, but a lot of them are not willing to sacrifice the load on the bar to be able to do so. One other thing I'd like to point out is this is a 3 RAR week. 3 RAR is not easy training. Notice that I am still struggling on that last rep. I'm still putting in a decent amount of effort to get that rep. Generally speaking, 3 RAR on lower rep sets results in the bar speed slowing down. And 3 RAR on higher rep sets will result in a shift in the pain or burning in the target muscle. And between 10 and 20 reps, you'll get a little bit of both.
What?
We're talking about lateral raises.
Oh.
What about them?
On shoulders like this, you have to do lots of those.
So as far as the lateral raise, you notice I'm actually lifting way up to the top. I've had people ask me why I do that. If you do me a favor and lift your arm higher above your head, where do you feel that? You don't stop feeling it in your delt. Maybe you do feel a little bit more trap as you lift your arm up higher, but in my case, and the way I think about it is, well, I have to do less trap work. I don't have to do a bunch of shrugs. I get side delt stimulus and trap stimulus. It's a win-win. Otherwise, it also reduces the absolute load I'm using, so a little bit less fatigue, and it feels good. I get a good pump in my side delts from doing it. So. All right, that pretty much concludes my workout. Just nothing too crazy. I think I did 12 total sets, about 3 sets each body part. Again, I'm at MEV volumes, just right about at MEV volumes, just to offset the catabolic stimulus of the diet. If I were doing a maintenance phase, then I would use maintenance volumes, but I need just a little bit more because of the added deficit. So not a whole lot of sets, right to MEV. So right as I'm getting a good pump, right as I'm getting some disruption, I'll hold there. As the mesocycle progresses on, that MEV will drop down because I will need more stimulus, and I'll adapt to the stimulus, and I will hold it constant. Unless I notice large decrements in performance week to week, then I may have to add some volume. So that concludes workout number 1 of this Minicut training cycle. I will try to get all of the workouts out to you within the next couple weeks, so stay tuned.